Hey guys, welcome back. We are in week 7 now, and we are going to focus this week and probably the next couple of weeks on geometry. So, this week we're going to focus on finding the area of squares, triangles, rectangles, and parallelograms. So, you already watched a video that gave you a introduction or a background area and went into how to find the area of squares and rectangles and triangles. But we're going to have a little bit more in-depth information on these skills. Okay? Before I move on, I want to talk about three important vocabulary words. We have area. Area is the amount of space inside a two-dimensional shape. So we know that rectangles are two-dimensional. So if we want to know the area, we want to know what's inside. What number is assigned to the amount of space that's inside of here? Everything that I'm shading in red, we want a number assigned to that. What is the area of this rectangle? Now, the next thing is square units. That is what we measure our shapes in. What is the square unit of this shape? So we use square units for area, very important. And you guys remember square units because of exponents. Remember, any number with the exponent of 2 is a square. Remember that? So the reason why it's called square units is because think of a unit. Units are like inches, centimeters, yards, feet. So think if you had a square and you had 2 feet by 2 feet, right? And we are multiplying the feet together to find the area. So it's like feet times feet. So the issue is, or the problem is that we have the same thing here. What is repeating? The feet, right? And how many times do you see feet? Well, you see it twice, 1, 2. So it's called square feet, or in other words, square units. And formulas is the equation that we're using to actually find the area of the shape. So there are equations that represent a mathematical rule written using only symbols. So different shapes have different formulas. All right, so just a quick look into the area of rectangles, which you guys kind of already learned. But in the last video, they talked about length times width. But I'm going to focus more on base times height because I want you to get familiar with that terminology. First things first, we know the base is normally the bottom, right, of a shape. Think about basement is the bottom of the shape. So this is our base. But how we think about base and height is that height is that, vertical side that goes up and down, and it's perpendicular to the base, which means that the height and the base form a 90-degree angle, a right angle. All right. So the height has to be up and down, and it forms a right angle with the base. Okay. So it's important that we label the dimensions of a rectangle so we know where to put the numbers. So again, all rectangles and squares form 90-degree angles. This side goes up and down. So this side is the base. This side is the bottom of the rectangle. So we want to say it's the, okay, guys. Oop, made a mistake. Sorry. My bad. This side goes up and down. So it's the height. I am so sorry, guys. And the bottom of it is the base. Yes, think basement. The bottom is the base. All right. So when we're doing formulas and equations, we use variables to represent the value. So for base, we use a B. For height, we use an H. So it's the first letter of the dimensions. And our formula is our equation. So how do we find the area of a rectangle? Well, A, which stands for area, is equal to base times height. Okay, so this is the formula of a rectangle. So how do we apply that to a problem? Well, here we go. First things first, you want to identify your base and your height. So everybody knows, or you should know from elementary school, that opposite sides are the same of a rectangle. So if the top is 10, the bottom is 10. And the reason why is because you can flip this shape over and now this part is on the bottom. So they're both the same dimension or measurement. If the right side is 5, then the left side is 5 centimeters. Now we know that all rectangles form 90-degree angles. So we know this up and down side is perpendicular to the bottom. So the up and down has to be our height. And the bottom piece is our base. So we know our base is 10 centimeters. And we know our height is 5 centimeters. Our formula for area, yes, area equals base times height. That's how you find the area of a rectangle. And when we show our work, we're just showing all the information, how we got it. So the first thing you always do is write the formula. Then you substitute the variables for the values. So we said our base was 10 and our height was 5. So now that we have all numbers, we can easily solve this because now it's an expression, right? It's an expression that we can solve a numerical expression. So 10 times 5 is 50. So our area is 50. 50, our unit is centimeters. And we have centimeters twice, so centimeters squared, because it's 10 centimeters, 5 centimeters. We have 2 centimeters, so centimeters squared. That is the area of the rectangle. All right, so we did rectangles. But we also can do parallelograms. So parallelograms are, a rectangle is a special type of parallelogram because it does have opposite sides that are parallel. But the difference between a parallelogram and a rectangle is it doesn't form right angles like the rectangle does. All right, so how do you find the area of a parallelogram? Well, same thing. Base times height, right? Same thing. Where A represents area, B represents the base, and H represents the height. The base and the height are always perpendicular, guys, which means it forms a 90-degree angle. It forms that right angle. So let's see what that means. We know that a right angle box is always the little box that's normally red, or it could be black depending on the color, but this is the right angle box. Now, to figure out the base is where the right angle box always lies on. So the right angle box is actually on this line here. So this is your base. And the straight up and down line that forms the right angle box with the base is your height. So inside of the parallelogram is your height, not the sides, inside of it. But for this parallelogram, best known as a rectangle, we have our right angle box here. And it sits on this line on the bottom, so this is our base. And the side that goes up and down and forms a right angle with the base is this side here, so this is our height. Okay? So that's how you identify them. All right, so how to use the formula. Step 1, you write the formula. A equals B times H. Now, if we look at this problem, they have so many different numbers, but guess what? That is a trick. They only need you to use 2, but they want to confuse you by trying to figure out which numbers do we use. All right, so step 1, Find the right angle box. Here it is. What line does it lie on? What side? Well, it lies on this bottom side, right? So if it lies on this, then we'll think the 6 is the base. So 6 is our base. And the up and down dotted line that forms the right angle is in the middle. So that is the 5. 5 is our height. 6 is our base. All right. Now we have numbers. Now we can multiply. 6 times 5 is 30 centimeters squared. Easy, right, guys? All right, just one more for the road for rectangles. Again, our formula, area equals base times height. Area equals, now the base. This right angle box sits on the bottom, so we're going to assume our base is 4. But it's going to be perpendicular with this side right here. And there's no number here, but we know that if this is 5.5, then the opposite side must be 5.5. So we know that our height is going to be 5.5. So we have 4 times 5.5. So we're going to believe that that is going to be 22 centimeters squared. If my math is right. And I believe my math is right. I believe it is. All right, guys. All right. So that is how you do parallelograms. Just like rectangles, just notice the dotted line in the middle of your parallelogram is your height. All right. The last one that we're going to go through is our triangles, area of triangles. Now, in the video, remember you guys saw this, that we can have a rectangle. Let's see. Make this black, right? We have a rectangle. And if we draw a diagonal line from one point to the next, it forms 2 triangles. So a triangle is part of a rectangle. And we have 2 triangles that forms the whole rectangle. So let's think about this way. If all of this is the area of the rectangle, right? We shaded all of this. All of this is. But we know that a triangle makes up 2 of the rectangle. We know that if we want to find the area of one triangle, we just have to find half of the area. So the formula for triangle is base times height. And I like to put the fraction bar so we get used to it. Divided by 2. So you multiply the base times the height, that's the rectangle, and then you divide it by 2 just to get a portion of it. You just want one of the triangles, right? So you just divide that by 2 and we get one triangle. So here we go. So where A represents the area, B represents the base, and H represents the height. Remember, the base and the height are always perpendicular. That's how you identify your base and your height, which brings me over here. Look for the red right angle box or the right angle box. It sits on this line here. It sits here. So this yellow line is your base, right? If you look here, right angle box sits here. This yellow line here is your base. Again, it sits on this piece, so this yellow line is your base. And it sits on this piece here, so this dark line, or now the yellow line, is your base. So I just found your base. All the yellows are your bases. Now the dotted line that forms the right angle with the yellow line is your height. See, height. All right. Okay. Pretty easy. So now let's see how to show our work. Let's see how that works. All right. So we have this triangle. Before we do anything, we need to know this. So there's so many different ways you can show b times h divided by 2. So I'm going to do it all the different ways. We can do area equals base times height divided by 2. Step 1, find our base. Well, our right angle box sits on this line here, so 5 is our base. It's formed with this straight up and down line. Remember height. Think about standing up and taking your height at the doctor. So 4 is our height. So area equals 5 times 4 divided by 2. Remember, we have to multiply before we divide because this is grouping. So 5 times 4 is 20 over 2. Area equals 20 divided by 2 is 10 centimeters squared. So this area on the inside is only equal up to 10, not 20, 10, okay? For number 2, we can use the formula area equals, now, base times height divided by 2. So you can either use the fraction bar as division, or you can use the division symbol as division. But if we use it this way, we need an extra line to do work. All right, so they're giving us 4 different numbers. We only need 2. We need to find our base. Our right angle box is here on this line, so 6 is our base. This up and down line forms the right angle, so 4 is our height. So area equals base is 6, height is 4, divided by 2. We multiply before we divide. 6 times 4 is 24, divided by 2. Area equals 24 divided by 2, which is 12 centimeters squared. So the area for this triangle, the inside, is 12 centimeter squares. Okay? All right, number 3. Let's do this way. Area equals base times height. Let's do a \2, right? That also means division, correct? So many different ways to show division. All right, here we go. So first things first, we need to figure out the base. Well, this is on this line, so all of this is the base. So the base is 7, and the height up and down is 5. So area equals 7 times 5 divided by 2. And this is division, sorry. Area equals 35 divided by 2. Area equals 17.5 meters squared. Okay, so on our classwork activity, you might want to use the backslash because it's easier and it's on your keyboard, but you can also use a fraction if you want to. You can also use the division symbol. It's up to you. All right, last one. I'm just going to use area equals base times height divided by 2. Go back to my fraction. They gave us 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers. We only need 2. So find the right angle box. It's right here, and it's on this line. So 9 is our base, and 2 is our height. Area equals 9 times 2 divided by 2. We got to do 9 times 2 first, which is 18 divided by 2. And area equals 18 divided by 2 is 9 meters squared. And that is how we find the area of triangles. All right, guys. This is the end of this lesson. I just want you to know that you will be able to find area formulas as well on your activities, but also in a presentation that I'm going to leave for you too as well. You'll see all the different area formulas as well as the pictures that will help you. Just know that length and width is interchangeable with base and height. So we use length and width for squares and rectangles, but we use base and height definitely for parallelograms and triangles. All right. So I hope this helped you guys. And again, if you need extra help, please come to your Zoom meetings. See you soon.